the drawing tools in After Effects to draw different shapes. Whenever you use a drawing tool to create a shape, a new layer is created. This layer is called a shape layer. Once you create a shape layer, you can specify the fill and stroke color, the transparency, and the gradient. You can also animate the shapes. In this lesson, we'll discuss how to draw basic shapes, draw custom shapes, use pucker and bloat to distort shapes, duplicate a shape, rotate shapes, apply a cartoon effect, and create wiggly shapes to create things such as waveforms. There are 5 shape tools available in After Effects. These tools are the rectangle, rounded rectangle, star, ellipse, and polygon. Once you draw a shape, you can format the shape by adding stroke and fill colors, as well as linear and radial gradients. In addition, you can also apply animation presets to shapes much in the same way as we did with the text in the last lesson. To draw a rectangle shape, click on the Rectangle tool in the Tools panel. Drag in the composition to draw a rectangle. If you look at the Timeline panel, you'll see a shape layer has been added. Note, make sure that all the layers are deselected before you use the Rectangle tool. Otherwise, After Effects will draw a mask for the selected layer instead of a shape in a new shape layer. To apply a gradient fill to your rectangle, go to the Tools panel again. Click the word Fill. You'll then see the Fill Options dialog box. Select a gradient option and then click OK. You can also choose a solid color if you want. I chose a radial gradient. Next, click the colored box beside the word Fill in the Tools panel. If you choose Radial Gradient, you'll then see the Gradient Editor. Depending on the gradient you choose, you might also see the Shape Fill Color dialog box. Since the Shape Fill Color dialog box is self-explanatory, and just like the color picker in other Adobe programs, let's talk about the Gradient Editor dialog box. The first thing to do is set your color stops. Start with the white color stop on the left and drag on it to move it. Then pick a color in the color picker box. Now do the same thing for the black color stop on the right. Click OK when you're finished. Now you can set the opacity of the new shape layer as well as adjust its other properties. Have fun with this and experiment. You can modify the path of any shape to change its shape. For example, let's use the Polygon tool. It's located with the Rectangle tool. Just click and hold your mouse button over the triangle in the bottom corner of the Rectangle tool. Next, drag a polygon shape onto your composition. Please note that the Polygon tool uses the settings from the last shape that was drawn. Then go to the Timeline panel. Click the triangle next to Shape Layer 1. Then do the same for Contents under Shape Layer 1, Polystar 1 under Contents, and then Polystar Path 1. Change the values for points, rotation, and radius. Then change the value for outer roundness. Watch how your shape changes in the Composition panel. Now you can change the fill color, as well as add a stroke. To add a stroke, click the word Stroke in the Tools panel. In the Stroke Options dialog box, choose if you want your stroke to be a solid color or gradient. Then click OK. Next, click the box next to Stroke in the Tools panel to select the stroke color. Click OK when you're finished. Go back to the Tools panel and specify the width for your stroke in pixels. We're going to set ours to 6 pixels. Just as with other layers, you can now transform the shape by altering its properties. You can use After Effects Pucker and Bloat to change the appearance of shapes by puckering and bloating them. I've drawn a star shape on our composition. The shape layer is Shape Layer 1, as shown in the timeline. Under Shape Layer 1, we're going to click the arrow beside Add. Choose Pucker and Bloat from the menu. Click the triangle beside Pucker and Bloat to expand it. To pucker, reduce the value, and to bloat the shape, increase the value. To duplicate a shape, select Shape Layer 1 in the timeline. Click Add to see the menu, and then choose Repeater. Expand Repeater 1 in the timeline by clicking the triangle next to it. Enter the number of copies you want to add. To separate these shapes so that you can see them all, expand Transform below Repeater 1 in the timeline. Go to Position. To move the shapes closer together, use a small number for the first value that appears. This is known as the x-axis. To move them further apart, use a larger number. Next, you can click the triangle beside Transform under Shape Layer 1 to move the layer's position to display all of the shapes. By clicking Add Again, then Repeater, we've added another row of shapes to create a background. Now let's learn to animate those shapes so they rotate in the background. When you apply the rotation for the original shape, the rotation will also apply to the duplicates. Go to the Timeline panel and go to Shape Layer 1, Contents, Polystar 1, Transform Polystar 1. Move the playhead to the beginning, and then click on the stopwatch to the left of rotation. This adds a keyframe. Now move the playhead to the 10-second mark. Change the value for rotation. We're going to change ours to 5x, which means the shape will rotate 5 times in 10 seconds. You can now drag the playhead across the timeline to view the rotation. If you want your shapes to blend in more with the background, you can change the opacity for Shape Layer 1. The shapes will still rotate, but they'll fade into the background a bit more. After Effects gives you the ability to take images or video and add a cartoon effect to them. You can see our composition with an image of a girl. The name of the layer that contains that image is New. Select the layer for which you want to apply a cartoon effect. Remember that it can be an image or a video. Go to Effect, Stylize, Cartoon. Now we can customize the effect to make it look better. To do this, go to the Effects Control panel. Make sure you're in the standard workspace so you can see it. Go to Render and then choose Fill from the menu. Adjust the detail radius and the detail threshold values. These values determine how much detail is removed and how it's smoothed. Next, go to the Fill area. Adjust the values for shading steps and shading smoothness to achieve the fill look that you want. These values will determine how the color is reduced, as well as how the gradients are displayed. Now go back to the Render menu and choose Edges. Go to the Edge area in the panel and adjust the threshold and the width to reduce the black lines that you see. You can also adjust the opacity and smoothness. Go back to the Render menu yet again and choose Fills and Edges. Go to Advanced and click the triangle to expand it. You can adjust the values to sharpen or soften the edges. Now take a look at the cartoon effect that we've created. Wiggly shapes are fun to create. They're shapes that you draw and then turn into something that has curves or jagged peaks that wiggle in your composition. Think of an audio waveform because you can easily turn a rectangle into an audio waveform by using wiggle paths. To start, draw a rectangle on your composition and then select the rectangle shape layer in the timeline. Click the downward arrow to expand the layer's properties and then click the Add button. Choose Wiggle Paths from the menu. Now click the triangle next to Wiggle Paths 1. Adjust the values for size and detail to achieve the look that you want. Select Smooth from the Points drop-down menu to smoothen out the path, then determine how many wiggles that you want per second. By experimenting with size and detail, we easily managed to create something that closely resembles an audio waveform.